Hello, hello, hello. This is your tutorial for the permanent lighting module. Yay! So this is how our new module works. It's a lot like our previous, modules and softwares that we have. There's just a couple of changes that we're going to go through right now. First things first, you can still create your client as usual. So we're going to click that Create Design Client button, and we are going to name our client really quickly. Just something fake. And we will just put in a fake address as a reminder. Emails, addresses, all like things of that nature are optional. You do not have to put anything in. There we go. The only other requirement is to put in a project name. So we are going to put in a project name and hit that Add Project button. Now that we've added our project, we can now upload our photo. Again, you can upload those photos for just about anywhere. Forward-facing photo is going to be best, obviously, especially when you're designing from permanent lighting. If you're using us for both design and measurements, we do recommend uploading both a front-facing photo and a aerial view photo. So you can measure front face from the front and cutbacks from the top and combine those measurements. So let's go ahead and add a photo now. I'm going to use one of our fun photos that we already have here. Here we go. And you'll be able to resize this photo here, grabbing these little handles if you need to. It's best if you have a widescreen photo though. And then hit that Save button. Once you've hit the Save button, it's going to, as before, upload to your client's media gallery. That way you can access it again in the future if you have multiple designs. So for now, we're going to select the photo we uploaded. And the next thing that pops up, just like before, is the yardstick. As a reminder, the yardstick is the length of something in real life on that photo. Maybe it's, the height of the first story, or maybe it's the width of the car garage. You can get this measurement off of Google Earth. You can measure while you're there in person, or, if it's something standard, you can do that too. So I'm going to put in the length between the beams here. I'm hitting that Accept button, and I'm going to stretch that to fit. I'm stretching it to fit lengthwise, not height-wise. Once I've stretched it to fit, I'm just going to drag that red box over to the corner, just somewhere where I'm not going to be drawing on top of it. After that, we're going to select items from our menu. You're used to starting off with C9 lights. Normally you can see all the ornaments and all the decor, but now we have a cascading menu. So you can select decor and see all the types of different decor or ornaments and all the other types of ornaments, and the other parts of the menu will collapse. We did that just so things don't get messy. But for today, we're doing permanent lights. So we'll select that permanent lights button. You'll see that this box becomes transparent. It will not show up in your final photos, videos, or anything else. It is just for you. After this, we're going to select our colors. You'll notice that the first thing we see under the right-hand menu is Group 1. You can add multiple groups. This is because sometimes you'll want a first level and a second level to look differently from each other or behave differently for whatever reason. So for our purposes though today, we're just doing Group 1. Go ahead and select the colors you want. When it comes to permanent lighting, I do recommend adding multiple of the same color before you have a color change. The pucks or the lights are so small, or pebbles, depending on the brand you're using, that when you have a different color for every single puck, pebble, whatever you want to call them, the colors bleed together a lot, which happens in real life too. So it's really important to have maybe at least 3 to 4 pucks or more of the same color before you have a color change, if you really want those colors to come out. In today's example, we are going to use Frozen colors, because that's always fun this time of year. So like the movie Frozen. So we'll start off with teal. I'll do 4 teal, 4 purple, and 4 cool white. That's going to be a great combo for us. If you need to have a gap, maybe you want a gap in between every color or whatever that might be. There is also this checkered circle. The checkered circle is basically what's going to happen if you had a puck off or a pebble off, whatever you want to call them again. So if you needed to have, blue, blue, two blanks or two off, and then purple, purple, two off, and so forth, you can work that into your patterning. After that, we're going to set up our other settings. So next thing we're going to see is spacing. The spacing is the distance between those lights. Depending on your brand, some of you might have 8-inch spacing, 9-inch spacing, 12-inch spacing, and so forth. You'll notice that we don't have 9 right now, but don't worry. That is going to be out here in just a couple of days, and you will see that as an option as well. But just pick whichever one your brand has. So I'm going to select 8-inch just for now for this example. After that, you'll be able to select the beam length that you want. I always like to start kind of in the middle. Width of your beam, opacity, which is basically the saturation, how dark or transparent you want those lights to show up. And then under other, whether or not you want surface coverage. Surface coverage is basically when you have permanent lights that are a little bit closer to the ground, it creates kind of a light pooling effect on the ground more so. You can add that pool of light if you want to. If you don't want the pool of light, just click no. And then facing, whether you want those lights facing downside or outside. If they're downside, that means they're pointing down from the eaves and creating that light cascading across the backboards and having that illumination effect. If they're facing out, like out toward the street, you're not going to see that same reflectiveness. So depending on how you're installing them. And then finally, how you want to draw. We have strand, trace, and single light. Strand, you're just doing straight lines, clicking, holding down, releasing. Trace is going to connect clicks, and single light is just one single light at a time. So we're going to start off with strand. I'm going to click where I want to start and drag and then release where I want to stop. You'll notice that you can really affect the angle when you're drawing. If you feel like it wasn't quite straight, you can select your light, and then you can grab these little ears and make them smaller, bigger, change the angle, whatever you need to before you release. And unlike Christmas, where you would normally put those on top of the roof line, you're putting them underneath the eave to give that same permanent light effect. We are going to do the same thing here. So it's going to be underneath the eave instead of at the shingle like you're used to, because this is where we are installing permanent lights. It is important to remember that we need to draw from left to right. And the reason for that is in our animation, it's going to coincide left to right. If you draw right to left, the lights appear up instead of down. But this is not a huge issue because you can select a light and then you can grab that white dot and rotate to get it to the right angle, right shape, whatever it is that you need to do. Or if you want to delete that line, just make sure you've selected it and hit the Remove from Design button here on the right. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. Again, you're going right underneath those baseboards, just like that. And then you'll notice that it's going to be a little tricky trying to go down because it wants to grab that next set of lights. There's a couple of ways we can deal with this. You can, one, do a different method of drawing, which would be trace. You would click once. I'm not holding down. I'm clicking again when I want my lights to stop and clicking again a third time. So now I've created that nice cascade effect. It's gone up and it's gone down pretty easily. And you'll see that it wants to continue connecting. If you want it to stop connecting, just move that cursor off the screen, just like that. Another option that you have is simply to draw kind of above where you want it to go, and then just drag it into place thereafter. So that is another option that you have as well at your disposal. But however you do it, it's really up to you. We're going to use this one for over here, and I'm going to select it. Again, I'm grabbing the ears, I'm shortening it up and just putting it in place. We also have this area here that's kind of recessed. If you are measuring with our software, I do not recommend measuring anything where it cuts back into your photo, because the depth is going to look different from this angle than it will from the top side. So you can always add a second design at the top by just hitting New Design, upload that aerial view, and then measure all your cutbacks from that perspective. Only measure straight lines and peaks from the front. Something else to keep in mind is that this portion of the house and this portion of the house are at different depths. Now, I'm just using this for designing right now, but let's say I did want to measure. I could always add a new yardstick for this area of the house, because this is where we did our measurement for the porch, which is fine for this area. I could put in the width of something. Maybe it's the width of a couple of windows, for example, and then drag that away. And I can then do my design work there as well. Now, these lights are going to be just slightly larger than these other ones were, and that's because they are slightly closer to us. If I had something that was really far forward, maybe there's a huge amount of depth in the photo. Maybe you need something, I don't know. We'll pretend that there's something all the way up on the lawn, all the way over here, and that this is 3 feet right here. I can add that, move it over, and just to show you how much bigger that is. And that's because we've told our software that from here to here is 3 feet. And so it's responding. That's why it's really important to put a somewhat accurate known measurement into the software so that it can scale your lights appropriately. We're going to go ahead and delete this for right now because we don't need that. And we'll switch back over to what we were doing over here. So you'll notice that the one piece of light we didn't get is this little portion right here. It's kind of hard to grab in between. So we're just going to draw right below it. And then we will just move that into place, just like that. And there we go. So there's some really cool things that we can do from here. This is a very bright photo. Obviously, it would be preferable to have this at night. So we do have a contrast slider here right below the photo. We can pull that over just a little bit. Now it looks a little bit more dusky, and we can change the background too. Because even though we've pulled down our lighting a little bit, it still looks kind of daylightish outside. So we can select the background button and select night sky. And then once we do that, now we have that nice dark night sky look. We have our permanent lights. It looks as it should. And it's beautiful. So one of the other things that we can do is decide how we want those lights to cascade, less so or more so in different areas. So let's say I want to make sure that this light and this light cascade down further so that they really reflect off that metal. I can group select by hitting the Shift button on my keyboard and selecting both sets of lights like this. After that, I can increase the opacity of those lights if I want to, or I can increase the height for the beam length if I want it to go down a little bit further, and so forth. So you can really kind of change it around to make it look like you want it to. Or maybe for this light here, we need it to be a really long beam, and maybe we want floor coverage on there. We'd go to other, we'd say, yes, we want some ground coverage, and then we can affect the distance to the surface from there if we want to. So we'll hit yes, You see where this little beam is? And we are going to increase the distance to the ground. So now we have that light reflection on the ground. We can increase the beam length just a little bit to drop it all the way down to the ground. That way it looks like it's shining right onto that concrete, and it has that look of that light cascading properly. So however you want to do it, you can really affect each and every individual line of lights to do what you feel like it would normally do in real life. If you want to increase or decrease certain saturation points, add that reflectivity on the ground if you want to. If it's somewhere a little bit closer to the ground, you can do that as well. So let's do that here. And then increase the beam length. And now it's right there on the ground. So now you have this beautiful light spilling out onto the ground anywhere that you are going to be a little bit closer, which is fantastic. It really kind of adds, I think, to how realistic the lights are going to look and what they're going to do for your client at the end of the day. Because, really you're wanting it to have that look and feel of real lights, and helps you to hopefully sell. So we've added that in there. We have the light kind of pulling down in different places. Now, how do you share this photo? There's a couple of different things that you can do. If you want to stop selecting something, by the way, just click the permanent light button again here and it'll stop selecting. One, if you want to create an animation, you're going to go to options, hit animation preview, and you'll be able to see that light move and have that animation. Right now, we currently only have one animation. We're hoping to have more in the future, but it's one right now. That being said, I think it looks pretty awesome. You can hit that download button and it will download onto your device as an MP4. Can you use this with iPad? Yes, you can. But we have some kinks that we are trying to get out for the iPad for the permanent lighting module. So for right now, we are recommending laptop or desktop for the next couple of weeks until we fine tune that iPad use. Our undo redo button is also paused for the permanent lighting module, but will be fixed in the next few days as well. The other thing you can do is to simply download the photo. So if you want to download the photo, we'll hit that download button. You'll be able to open it up on your computer or wherever that might be, and you'll see everything is bright, everything is downloaded. You don't see any of those little fields or numbers anymore. Again, that was just for you, and the photo looks fantastic. Or you can share through our proposal system. You don't have to if you don't want to. Our proposal system will actually have an estimate number for you. So if you look right below your photo, you'll see this eyeball that says estimate. This is your quick estimate. This is letting us know that we have permanent lights, multicolor, 8-inch spacing, around 137 feet of length, 206 pucks or pieces of light. And our calculator that you have is going to multiply by whatever you put in your pricing to give you that number. Now, again, you might want to combine numbers if it goes back into the photo so you have some accuracy. And you can change your numbers by going to prices and then scrolling down to permanent and putting in whatever that pricing is for you. For that proposal button, you'll click the update proposal button and it will create a proposal for you. Under settings, when you first get set up, you'll have the opportunity to add in your client, your company name, your logo, your company's information. However you save the client, it's going to automatically put in this information here. Your design, you'll have an option to add your watermark on the left or on the right, whichever you feel like is going to look best. I think it's going to look best on the left on this particular photo. And then you'll see that number below. You can overwrite it however you want to. So if you feel like this needs to be $4,500, and again, this is not an accurate number. This is just a demo account, it's just a completely random number. But let's say we're putting in 4,500. That's going to change it for just your client. It doesn't change your quick estimate, which is for you. You can decide whether or not you want to show a design in the proposal or whether you want to include your subtotal into a grand total. So if you had maybe a good, better, best, and you don't want those to add up at the end, then you could just unclick include this subtotal in the grand total and not have a grand total at the bottom. You can share your estimate by opening it up in a new tab or copying it into a clipboard and sharing that link with your client. So when you share the link with the client, they'll be able to see this view. And your fine print that, if you have any, will be saved under settings. That being said, though, for your video, for the animation, that is something you do have to send separately. You can send it, text it, whatever you want to do with it, but it will download onto your device as an MP4. Again, to access that, you're going to go to Options, hit Animation Preview. It's going to show you what the animation is going to look like. And then after that, you'll be able to download by clicking the Download button and then sending that file however you want. I've had no issues sending it on Messenger, WhatsApp, email, whatever that might be for you. But at the end of the day, that's how you do it. I find it to be really easy and fun to use. And I have had such a blast creating all kinds of great different designs. I hope this tutorial helps you and that you have the best of luck with your permanent lighting business.